During taps, I'm going to ask that everyone rise. Those that had military service, you can use the hand salute. Otherwise, folks, you'll place your hand over your heart, please. Ask everyone to please rise.
אסעיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love stronger than death. Though we grieve in our hearts, may we be unafraid to the trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to your keeping. We are here today to remember and to honor the memory of Bill Neides, a devoted husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, a passionate member of his beloved Cleveland community. Bill was a man full of drive, full of speed, generosity, a man full of knowledge and love, and the insatiable spirit to share that with others. Today we celebrate and we honor his life and join our hearts together to give comfort to his loved ones, gathered here today both in person and watching virtually. In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under the heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time, a difficult time, filled with many emotions and memories, both sweet and bitter. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of the Spirit Bill gave you all cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of his light will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. We continue our memorial service with the recitation of psalms and prayers linking Bill's life with the tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. Psalm 23. Adonai roi lo echsar binot dashe yarbitzeni alamei menuchot Inaleini Nafshi Ishovev Yancheini b'maglei tzedek Yanacheini b'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam ki eilech b'gei tzalmavet lo ira ki ati madi shiftecha umishantecha heima yinachamuni. Taroch lefanai, lefanai, shulchan neged sorerai, dishanta vashem roshi, kozi revaya. I invite you to join with me if you know the words. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. I now want to invite Bill's beloved granddaughter, Samantha, to share her words of memory.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I'm Bill's granddaughter. Though I have a lifetime of memories with Papa Billy as my grandfather, I will share with you today a few memories of Papa Billy as great-grandfather to my son, Tommy. First, when my husband Tom and I planned to tell Papa Billy that I was pregnant with my son, Tommy, I decided that we should go to dinner so that when I tell him that I'm having a baby, he can say, and Barbara can say, Bill, they're having a baby. So we went to dinner at the club at Boca Point, and we sat on the quiet patio, and Papa Billy asked about our dog, Molly. We said that Molly says hi, and that someone else says hi, too. At this point, I placed the ultrasound printouts in front of him. He looked at it for a moment, and then said, "What is this, a bird?" I said, "No, it's a baby." "A what?" "It's a baby." At this point, Barbara says, "Bill, they're having a baby." Upon his realizing that he would be a great-grandfather, Papa Billy's eyes lit up, and he was the most excited that I have ever seen him. He said that he never thought that he would be a great-grandfather. Papa Billy was absolutely thrilled with his new role as Tommy's great-grandfather. From joining us for Tommy's first haircut to pushing Tommy on the swings at the park, Papa Billy loved every second of it. We all went to Sugar Sand Park in Boca about 2 months ago. Papa Billy and my husband Tom sat in the shade, and Tommy ran around the park with me chasing close behind. Tommy ran up to Papa Billy and said loudly in his tiny toddler voice, "Hi, Papa Billy!" And Papa Billy heard him loud and clear and smiled huge. Despite his once complaining that I broke his computer when I alphabetized the programs in Windows 95, Papa Billy learned how to set up FaceTime on Barbara's iPhone so that he would be able to see Tommy for the very first time when Tommy was just a month old in June of 2020 when we were at the beginning of COVID, so we were unable to visit. Later, I helped him set up his phone's camera app so that he could take pictures of us and Tommy at the park. I was able to visit Papa Billy in the hospital. I showed him some recent photos of Tommy that I had not yet printed and mailed, including a photo of Tommy being held by the rabbi at Shabbat at school the previous week. Papa Billy noticed Tommy's recent haircut and said he loved the shorter look, then said, "Where are his curls?" He thanked me, and he said that the photos of Tommy really cheered him up and helped calm him down. I have been so fortunate to have my grandfather in my life for 37 years. And I am even more grateful that my son Tommy was able to spend so much time with his great-grandfather. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I now want to invite Herb to share his words.
Bill Neides, independent, self-made man, entrepreneur, voracious reader of stories, math wizard, storyteller, strategic thinker. Lessons. My earliest memories of my life are the best memories of my life. My happiest times ever occurred early on, before they invented seat belts and self-doubt. In the days when the world was pastel pink, aqua, turquoise, and polished stainless steel, I grew to figure out that my family, led by my father, were my tour guides through this place of what now appears in my mind in a dreamlike memory. I remember noticing my dad was cooler than other dads by the way he was able to fix everything. I knew this because everyone needed his help fixing everything. Every weekend, we would go on a crusade to houses of relatives and friends to repair drains, drawers, and garbage disposals, or anything that Bill could find. Sometimes things didn't need that much fixing when we started, but by the time we were done, they needed more fixing. So we came back next weekend. Sometimes it didn't matter if he knew the person with the problem. We'd end up at a guy's house who we met at Estern Hardware, and Bill would fix his stuff too. That's how you get to know people. You fix their stuff. People never fail to let you in when they see that you have the tools of diplomacy in your hand and you're going to fix their stuff. There was always gratitude and hospitality, always an offer of candy and conversation. I was with him constantly. Bill never saw it as an act of generosity, nor did he call it that, or even think about it. It was done consistently, without question, as a gesture of gratitude for having the ability to fix things for people. Culture. The definition of culture is what your father did. Over the past few days, I've heard condolences from many people who have now completed or are finishing their careers. Every one of them has exactly the same story. They are consistently telling me how Bill aligned himself with them through discussion that was influential and profound in mentoring what turned out to be wonderful careers and personal lives. He made friends and created relationships through business, tennis, vintage cars. He socialized as often as possible throughout his life. It was a priority of the utmost importance. Fears. When a threat appears, we fight or engage in flight. I assure you that Bill never took flight. At the first sense of a threat, Bill's instincts surfaced. If you don't believe me, I can put you in touch with a Comcast customer service advisor. There's still a guy in Malaysia hiding under a desk somewhere. Bill never went to sleep with a business problem or a request, no matter how small or large. Action was immediately taken or expected. If he asked you to do something, it never meant sometime in the future. It meant now. He didn't care if it was an errand or a complicated legal issue. He needed for it to be resolved now. Them's the rules. A buffalo runs into the storm. It knows that's the fastest way to get through it. Like a buffalo, Bill Neides ran into the storm. If there was no storm to run into that day, he'd find one. I guess we could have called him Buffalo Bill. About 2 years ago, at the age of 88, Bill had a heart attack in Boca Raton. He got in his car and drove down I-95 to Fort Lauderdale, 30 miles away, where he trusted the hospital. When I got to the hospital the next morning, he asked me to get his phone cord out of his car. When I came back with it, I commented the car was clean. He said, "I got it washed on the way here." But the car thing, this car thing was way more than a hobby. First of all, you have to understand the accelerator pedal in Bill's car had two positions, on and off. which led to even more personal relationships, mostly with body shops in Cleveland and Boca Raton, and a couple of state troopers. Yes, cars are shiny mobile works of art and engineering and mark the most profound achievements of manufacturing. But the car was more. Being in the car was being in a place. The car was the rabbi's study. It was the cone of silence. It was all of Bill's attention. It was a place where I was way more than a passenger. I had a front row seat to my father's life, and he to mine, all mysteries removed. This was the place where thoughts were spoken, ideas exchanged, and issues processed. My father and I put on what seemed like millions of miles and traveled through decades in those seats. It wasn't about the destination. This was the destination. From those shiny chrome American cars that he drove through my teenage years, up to the modern German car era of the 80s, 90s, and now, the ride was the destination. Our lives evolved and were chronicled by those discussions. Father and son, business partners, mentor and his subject, Batman and Robin. Cars, business, technology, steel, whatever our current personal events were, that was the topic. I received my business education, legal and tax planning, estate planning, investment planning, real estate, innovation. It was there that we discussed starting his business, how he finished school, marriage, children, love, frustration, who's a thief and who's a good person. It was all spoken there. He was bright and warm. He was impatient and temperamental. And he was really funny. I capitalized that. He was curious and fascinating and was a student of all that surrounded him. He shared openly his thoughts and ideas. He allowed me to be a party to his process of what he referred to as thinking out loud. I listened intently and memorized what Bill Neides was trying to tell me, and I remember when and where I heard all of it. I know exactly what to say here. I know how to deliver the final message of Bill's eulogy because I was listening, and I know when he told me, and I remember what he told me. I totaled it all up, and I know the bottom line of this man's life because he told me when we were in the car.
I'd like to invite Pamela to share her words.
Dad, rest, knowing well that we are so proud of your beautiful life, so awed by the life force that defined you. Now, please take comfort in our collective love, that of your children, their children, your cousins, and many, many close friends as you leave us. And fear not, as we ask on this day, April 6th, as we honor your own father's yahrzeit today, that he, Harry C. Neides, accompany you in spirit and protect you on your way. Rest easy, dear Father. Nothing more to do.
These words from Rabbi Alvin Fine: birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or from strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until not looking backwards or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high point along the way, but in having made the journey. Step by step, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey. Our sages, our rabbis, taught that there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasize that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, a good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. It is this view that the Talmud teaches monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown and for the love they have given. They are shining examples of what it means to be a mensch. The Talmud teaches that when the rabbinic sage Reish Lakish died, his closest friend, Rabbi Yochanan, went into deep grief. The community sought to comfort him, but he would not be comforted. All he could ask was, "Where are you, Lakish? Where are you, my friend?" So we too are plunged in sorrow today. We too mourn a man that was respected, a man that was loved, a man who inspired and who mentored so many. A man who didn't just have a good name. His name was golden. Across the impassable border of speech and sight and touch and hand, we too ask, how can we call Bill Neides back? Bill loved stories, so I have to share one. The story is told that when God created the first human beings, the angels were jealous. Having heard these new creatures were made in God's own image, the angels conspired to hide the image where human beings would never find it. One of the angels wanted to hide it in the depths of the ocean. Another proposed to bury it on the highest mountain. But the cleverest of the angels had a better idea. Let's hide God's image in their own hearts. That's the last place that they're going to look for it. Today we mourn, we say goodbye, and we offer tribute to Bill. And while today is no happy occasion, we nevertheless celebrate his life by recalling the good memories, the meaningful memories, the ones that bring a light to our eyes and a smile to our face. Foremost, we remember him as a cherished husband to Ruth, his wife and partner of 63 years. We remember him as a treasured father to Pam, to Herb, and to Cynthia. We remember him as a loved and appreciated grandfather to Samantha, to Sarah, Noah, and Mateo. And of course, as an adored great-grandfather to Tommy. Herb, as you beautifully wrote, Bill cherished time with his family, particularly with his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, truly appreciating each of them as individuals and seeing their unique potential. Born in Cleveland on June 15th, 1931, to Lena and Harry Neides, Bill, even from a young age, was a man on the move, a man who never stopped trying to improve, striving to always be better. Bill's family was steeped in the world that embraced modernity and secular life. His grandparents married in 1885 at the old Scoville Avenue Temple, a precursor to Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple. His unique and incredibly long-lasting relationship with Ruth began when they first met each other in kindergarten in 1936. And while they didn't start dating when they were that young, they were always in touch throughout their schooling. When they moved to different cities, they still stayed in touch. Bill was at Heights High, and Ruth went to Glenville. That's when they started their official relationship, and they didn't look back. They were married when Ruth was 20 and Bill was 21, under the chuppah at a traditional Jewish wedding officiated by the rabbi at Ohev Tzedek, the synagogue where Ruth was raised. Their marriage of 63 years was steeped in a commitment to family and was surrounded by deep, lifelong friendships with other couples. They had loved deeply and were deeply loved. In Judaism, we are commanded to repair the world around us while we are on this earth. While that might not have been the underlying reason for Bill's contribution to the lives of others, I do believe that intrinsically all of his unique gifts were used to make life a little easier for the rest of us. Bill was constantly in search of problems to solve, as Herb already mentioned. He adored his antique car collection, tweaking, improving, polishing, showing, bringing home awards from car shows near and far. Herb, you shared yesterday that Bill's Packards were his greatest source of pride and achievement, and he got so much joy from driving these cars down country roads away from modern freeways. Pam, you said that when you took the back roads with your dad behind the wheel, you saw the immense joy in his heart and his soul as he steered. His love for cars and speed were still evident recently when he shared that a car trip that was to take an hour took him only 48 minutes. He was quite proud of that achievement. A U.S. veteran who was stationed in Baltimore and Chicago, Bill founded the Clifton Steel Company in 1971. It was the culmination of his incredible drive and talent. Under his guidance and his leadership, the company grew in remarkable ways. Initially, the company provided materials to the coal mining and coal power plant industries in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Eventually, Clifton Steel expanded their capabilities and processes, serving customers in industries that included recycling, railroad, mining equipment, and the military. His gifts and drive made the world a better place. In the words of Bill's grandson, Noah, Bill was a man who always pushed. Bill was a loyal and passionate member of the Cleveland community and offered countless contributions to society over the years. He was a dedicated supporter of our synagogue, Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple, and our sacred community has been blessed to have him as a steadfast advocate. I loved going through the Neides member file. I could use it as a weight at a certain point, just to learn about all of the wonderful history of the Neides family and Fairmount Temple. Bill was a man of style and taste. Cynthia, you shared how anyone who was brought to the house was first given a tour of Bill's closet. And through that, trips would always get something of Bill's. He was just so generous, especially with his clothes. He loved to travel, to play bridge, and to spend time with his friends and colleagues. It was the relationships that sustained him. Bill loved his friends, and his friends loved him back deeply. He was an incredible teacher and mentor to so many. He was a man who was blessed with life. He appreciated life, and he cherished and found joy in the faces of his friends and his family. After Ruth's passing in 2015, Bill was grateful to have connected with Barbara, with whom he has shared these past years. Bill cherished Barbara and felt safe and loved by her. The Neides family is so grateful to you, Barbara, for being by his side over these last special years. Friends, Bill left a legacy that will dwell, inspire, and offer hope for years to come. In this life, Bill did good. He did it his way, and he did it right. It wasn't always easy, it wasn't always pleasant or pretty, but in the end, he did it right. The angels in the story that I began with chose to hide the divine image, God's image, in our hearts, because that's the last place we will look for it. But it's the first place that people will look for Bill. That is where he dwells. Bill, you dwell in our hearts and shine in our souls, now and always, with a light that can never go out. You will be dearly missed. May Bill's memory be a blessing, Zichrono Livracha, and let us say Amen. We continue with the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim, and I invite you to please rise if you are able. El male rachamim, shochein bamromim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanafei hashchina. Im kedoshim utehorim kezahar harakia mazhirim. Et nishmat tzvi ben herivelena shechalach leolamo. Bal harachamim yastirechu b'seiter kenafav leolamim v'yitzror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach B'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Bill's memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Bill's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen.